and welcome to the Wednesday, November 5th, 2014 Falmouth Conservation Commission hearing. At this point in time, I'd like to remind people who have electronic devices, phones and such, please silence them. Okay. Tonight's agenda begins with voting October 29th, 2014 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I've read the minutes. I find them substantially correct. I have one minor correction on page 8. It's clarifying that there were 5 yeses and 1 abstention. And I'll pass that along to.
Okay.
Chair, I had on page 4 a suggestion for a minor change just to clarify the fact that at the 12 Nichols Road project, we were discussing the limit of 200 square feet, just to clarify the fact that that has to do with additions in a velocity zone.
Okay. So those 2 minor corrections in the motion by Mike. Can I have a second? And we'll have Russell's second. Any other discussion on the board? We'll make sure we get these to to Sue. Thank you. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Now we're running right into other business. This is an update on the 300 Committee stewardship activity. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, I'm here as the administrator of the 300 Committee to present our update on activities related to town conservation land, also to present some of our new land acquisitions. So I'll be presenting just the overview, and I'll breeze through some of the recent acquisitions of 2014. And Jack Sidar, our stewardship coordinator, will discuss stewardship activities and current projects related to town conservation parcels. We started doing these updates to the Conservation Commission, I think about 3 years ago, as a way that we could have a regular update because we have an agreement with you all through a memorandum of understanding for working on town conservation parcels with regards to stewardship. We also continue to acquire land, sometimes in our own right, sometimes on behalf of the town. Other cases we accept conservation restrictions, but all of this is geared towards adding quality open space to Falmouth's inventory. At this point, we estimate that we're at about 23% of Falmouth's land area as permanently protected open space, and the goal in the town's open space plan and in the draft update for the local comprehensive plan, the goal is to have 30% of Falmouth's land area as permanently protected open space. So we're still working towards that goal. As you know, the 300 Committee was founded in 1985, nonprofit organization. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary next year. Our organization is supported through membership contributions, and most of the stewardship work that occurs in Falmouth goes on a volunteer basis coordinated by our staff. Our mission is permanent preservation of open space through acquisition, education, and management. And in our 30-year history, we've worked to preserve 2,300 acres of open space. So the highlights of this past year in terms of new permanent protected open space: the Two Ponds Conservation Area, which is next to the Atria Woodbriar property. It's almost 15 acres at Two Ponds Conservation Area, so it has frontage on Jones Pond and Saul's Pond. It has a portion of the property is an Atlantic white cedar swamp. One of our goals in the year ahead is to work on a land management plan. There is some existing access there that Atria installed before they donated the property to us. There's a trail and there's benches and a knoll for seating. There is parking currently available in the Atria Woodbriar parking lot. So we hope this is a site that Falmouth residents can view and begin to enjoy. West Falmouth Coastal Project. This is a partnership between the 300 Committee and the Buzzards Bay Coalition. We're working collectively to try to secure conservation restrictions. We have an area of up to 30 acres that we're working at acquiring. The one CR that we acquired in this area within this past year was the sheer conservation restriction, Sheer Hills. It's 7.2 acres. Absolutely exquisite property with almost 1,000 feet of beach frontage on Black Beach, heathland, coastal heathland habitat. And this is the first project within this area, so we hope it will be a model for other property owners in that area to preserve their land. The Pildas Conservation Restriction, this is over in Waquoit, 2.15 acres. What this family decided to do was to restrict 2 buildable lots. This land qualified for the state conservation tax credit, as did the Sheer property. So both of these conservation restrictions, the landowners were eligible for an additional state tax credit because their land met a higher criteria of what the state was looking for in terms of biomap 2 and priority habitat that was being preserved. The one pending donation that's scheduled to be complete this year is the chute transaction. So what I've done here is I've shown in yellow the transaction that already went through several years ago. So these parcels have been owned by the Swift Chute family since 1680. It's the last privately owned land that has frontage on Long Pond. So the parcels that are highlighted in yellow were donated to the 300 Committee back in 2006. There's a watershed agreement and there's a conservation restriction that requires that the town of Falmouth retain ownership of a 500-foot buffer from the edge of Long Pond. So what the family did was subdivide, the town gets the 500-foot buffer, the 300 Committee owns the remaining land. So the property highlighted in red is the chute property that we're dealing with now. It's just over 15 acres, about 15.84 acres is what the deed indicates. So again, in this case, the land would be subdivided, the town will get the 500-foot buffer, so it's shown in the red hatched area, and the 300 Committee will own the remaining land. There is a town meeting article next Monday, actually the 17th, Article 27, where the town will vote acceptance of this 500-foot piece. So once this transaction is complete, then all of the land surrounding Long Pond with frontage will be owned either by the town of Falmouth or by the 300 Committee. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Jack Sidar, our stewardship coordinator, who has been working with the 300 Committee since August. So it's an opportunity for us to introduce him to you, and he can tell you a bit about what we've been working on. But overall, I just want to give this overview that our stewardship program is clearly focused on 300 Committee properties. T-Ticket Park is one that went through your review process, and that's a restoration effort. And we also have conservation restrictions that we hold on private land and public land. We have a monitoring program for that. And then there's the involvement with town land. And there's more than 2,000 acres that we have volunteer stewardship taking care of. So it's been a collaboration between the 300 Committee and the Town Conservation Commission from the beginning. And we're glad to have the opportunity to spend even if it's just a few minutes, to give you an overview of what we're working on so that we can touch base and give you a sense of the big picture of what our activities are. So with that, I'll introduce Jack Sidar.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. I'm just going to give a quick overview of some of the stewardship activities conducted this last year with a focus on town land projects. So our trail crew this past year, which is led by Gary Walker, had about 21 volunteers show up over the course of 6 or 7 work days, and they donated 85 hours worth of volunteer time to clear trails and create new trails. Some of the work they did on town lands includes Beebe Woods, the Moraine Trail, Wheeldon Preserve, and Peterson Farm. This work is typically done in the winter, so they're again gearing up to get ready to go out. Another volunteer group that we've had the privilege of working with is the AmeriCorps Cape Cod service. This past year we had 2 work days with their full crew. The first one was at the Dupee Conservation Area, where they helped reclaim an old field and cleared the foundation of a historic dairy barn, which helped provide valuable open field habitat. The second workday also focused on grassland habitat restoration, and it was up at the Coonamessett Reservation. The project mostly involved the removal of invasive species. A project that we're currently working on with the DPW and the Conservation Commission is to help improve public access at the Bry-Vogel Conservation Area. So the 300 Committee has helped secure a grant on behalf of the town to create a new parking area. The current situation is that when the leaf composting facility is closed, the gate's closed, and so it's hard to access the property. This new parking lot will create access for people to walk around the gate even when it's closed. And we hope to continue restoration projects at Bry-Vogel. Another town property that 300 Committee has been involved with is the Little Pond Conservation Area. Members of the 300 Committee helped work on the concept plan, which will highlight a restoration effort that includes public access for canoes and kayaks to the Little Pond, as well as a passive recreation trail that will highlight some of the unique features of the property. One of our major volunteer groups for stewardship is the land stewards. These people typically have adopted a parcel that they are particularly fond of and visit frequently. They're really sort of our eyes and ears out there. They report back any activities that might need follow-up. They organize trash pickups, report any sort of dumping, any sort of monitoring. They help out with restoration work as well. We also have volunteers helping with our mowing of grassland, and some of the town parcels that we have volunteers helping mow are the Cardoza Farms parcel, the Coonamessett Reservation, and the Sea Farms parcel. Some of our other stewardship volunteer groups include CR monitors. These are people that help us monitor our conservation restrictions on a yearly basis. Currently, we hold 10 conservation restrictions on town properties. So again, these people are helping address issues and identify issues occurring on town properties. We also have a small group of volunteer specialists that help with natural resource inventories. They help identify different plant communities, wildlife habitat that we can sort of focus and highlight to the public. And our final volunteer group is the outdoor workers group. This group typically helps out with special projects such as removal of invasive species. So looking forward in the next coming months, we're going to start our annual monitoring again. So we will be monitoring 300 committee properties, town properties, and conservation restrictions. We also have some upcoming volunteer work days and events. In January, we're going to be giving a training workshop that addresses conservation restriction monitoring, sort of a basic guide as to what conservation restrictions are, why we monitor them, how to monitor them, and sort of culminate in a site visit to monitor one of our properties. And as I mentioned before, the winter trail crew should be starting up work in January. And we're always looking for volunteers, so if any of you know anyone that would be interested in helping out, you're more than welcome to pass along my email or the 300 Committee email, which is posted on the board. So thank you guys for your time, and we look forward to continuing working with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
At this point, I'd like to open that up to the board if you want to turn some lights on. And, we can maybe put some faces up. Now we'll be able to see. Is there any comments on the board about what was just brought up?
I think it's great work, and thank you for sharing that with us. It's really nice to hear kind of a little more detail what's happening out there. Thank you.
I know that I can jump in if I may. My introduction to the 300 committee was out at the Sea Farms. One of the neighbors out there, and we were doing some maintenance and such, and that's how I met. I believe it was Claire DeMello was the steward out there, and that was a number of years ago. And it's a nice thing. I'm glad that you put your email out there for the people who are technical. You can always call. It's the 300 committee. Volunteers are, it was a great way to understand it. You don't have to own the property and enjoy it and actually participate in outdoor activities. It's a wonderful thing. I'm glad that you updated us. I focused on the Sea Farms when you had that picture up there, because there's only three little places that aren't, it's a very big connected chunk, and it's really nice to have that. The lofty goal of the 30%, good luck. There's a lot of volunteers that we're grateful for. Nice to meet you, Jack. We had a brief interlude a couple weeks ago on something else that's going to come up shortly. Is there any comments from the audience? Yes.
Mark Reed, Mashpee Conservation.
I need you to come up to the podium. I'm sorry.
It's a real brief comment, but let me just make it. I don't know if you run into this problem or not, but regarding the shoot property, it's important when the town accepts the property, you get your attorney to write the deed appropriately so that it accepts the property as conservation property. And if you do that, then it's restricted forever. So if anyone wants to change it, the town wants to change its use, they have to go to the state legislature. It becomes a so-called Article 97 property. The state legislature has to approve by a 2/3 vote in the House and the Senate to change the use from conservation. So if your attorney writes that to the deed, when you accept the property and you get the new deed, then the town is very well covered to protect that property pretty much forever.
That's good to know.
Good enough, thank you.
Mark, can you say the last name for Susan again?
Yes.
I have a question, actually, and I do want to thank you all. I think the town is really very fortunate to have the 300 committee, and certainly this commission is. You piqued my interest when you said that, you talked about the oversight of the conservation restrictions, and I was just wondering, in a very general way, is there, what kinds of issues come up, or is there, a recurring pattern of a type of issue that we should know about for future purposes?
That one's on you, Jack.
So actually, we just met with Jennifer the other day and addressed some of the issues we found this year. For the most part, everything looks good. A few of the properties have ATV use, which is an ongoing problem that we're trying to address. And,
by others, I assume.
correct, yeah. And everything else is sort of a little bit smaller that we're working on addressing.
Okay, thank you.
Mary, they're generally encroachment
Mhm.
issues, small encroachments into the CRs.
Thank you.
Then, is there any other comments on the board? Is there any other comments in the audience at this? I'd like to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing Jack in the future, and yourself as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have request for continuance under a determination of applicability. A determination of applicability is a lesser of the permits, and what we want here for the project is a negative determination. Positive determination requires further permitting. So when you hear a negative determination by the board, that's actually what the applicant wants to hear. First this evening is 9 Bournes Pond Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove the existing cesspool and septic tank and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is
Yep. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
requesting a continuance until November 12th.
So moved.
Second.
That's Mary's motion, also second, for continuance to November 12th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is request for determination of applicability. Again, explaining that the negative determination is what you want to hear. First up is Royal Megansett Nursing Home, 209 County Road, North Falmouth, Mass. Permission to install 2 soil air units to enhance the existing sewage disposal system. Excuse me.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the bylaw, -3 under the state of the resource area boundaries not conforming.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Russell beat you on that, Mike. Mary's motion, Russell's second. Is there any discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is continued requests for determination of applicability. First is the 300 Committee, care of Jack Sitter, Rydell Mount Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reestablish and reroute an existing trail, remove debris and invasive plants, and to install an informational kiosk.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff had recommended at your prior hearing -2 under the bylaw and state that the resource area boundaries not confirmed. We continued the project so that the applicants could meet with the abutting property owners to address any of their concerns with the proposed path.
Well, I can speak to this directly myself. I was out with Sam Patterson just the other evening with some of the neighbors and walked with the applicant, and he explained there was just some confusion and misunderstanding, and once it was explained about the activities there, people were on board about what was being presented and what is going to be done. I can enthusiastically recommend to the rest of the board a negative determination, but I would like to also thank the 300 Committee for helping this young man pursue this project. This is the second time this young man has been in front of the board for a project. The first one became slightly controversial, and he was hoping to have something a little more innocuous. However, the world being what it is, he shouldered the responsibilities yet again to come in front of this board and also massage the individuals in that neighborhood, explaining to them what exactly the project was. I think he did a tremendous job. He was articulate in explaining it and very patient, as was the neighbors. It was a really good collective, and I'm happy to do that, so I can endorse it, but I can't make the motion.
I move to accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
That's Mary's motion. John's second for the enthusiastic chairman's -2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you so much. Next, we have request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First up is 20 Nichols Road, Wacoit, Mass, for permission to install approximately 100 linear feet of biologs, restore areas disturbed by construction, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I will hold any of my comments until after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening to you. I'm Paul Moskowski. I'm here to represent Karen Chorches of 20 Nichols Road, East Falmouth. And basically, this project is to repair a banking that's been undermined by the ocean at very high tides. And essentially, the idea here is to set core logs, 20-inch core logs, and weave the supports within the core logs to sort of hold that banking and just sort of stabilize it to keep it from going any further. As far as the construction or the sort of the method to this is we're going to have to take apart some of the eroded part of the bank, literally slice it off, and prune all the roots. There's a couple of overhead branches that need to be removed, and then dig in a slight footing for the first course of core logs, and then start supporting them from there. And they're going to be 5 logs total, 3 logs high, which will fill in that void that we now have on the banking. And we don't need to have any additional fill. We're going to work with all existing material. It's pretty straightforward. The core logs themselves, we would end, once they were all installed and tied in with the duckbills, we would insert Amorphila into the logs themselves. So ultimately, 2 years down the road, it's going to look like a vegetated banking. Do you have any questions?
Yes, do you have, actually, I'm not going to jump into this one like I did last week first. I'm going to ask our administrator if she has anything.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Paul, you've never done this type of work.
I've never set these logs, that's
Okay.
correct.
And who is going to be supervising the work?
Chris will be there from EJP to work, at least on the initial process of starting to weave the supports in.
And he'll be on site,
Yes,
and we can condition that?
yes, of course.
For a point of reference, EJP is who?
They're a supplier, they're a wetland product supplier.
Okay.
And no, we've never done the core logs, we've always worked with sort of older, more conventional materials. But I think these are going to work great.
Okay. I have a question for Jack on the site plan.
I'd be happy to answer.
Jack, what FEMA lines are on the plan?
I'm sorry, what?
FEMA lines.
FEMA line.
Will be
Okay, first of all, I wasn't planning to be here tonight for this matter, so
No,
give me a
but just
moment.
look-
I'd be happy to answer the question.
What a coincidence you are.
Okay.
I saw you downstairs. Says you use the 86 FEMA lines, Jack, and need the new FEMA lines on the plan.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at.
Give me a moment.
It would be
It's in your note.
your second note.
We actually, yeah. Flood zone. Starts right here, comes down, and across like this, over, down, and across, just like that. This is flood zone X, and this is flood zone VE elevation 13.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that based on the new maps or the 86 maps like it's referenced on your plan?
Well, unfortunately, this plan is dated September of 2013, so I would have to say.
The old map.
It says in the,
Well, I just, it's a.
You're gonna have to give me a revised plan on this one, Jack.
I don't have a problem with
Okay. And Paul also conditioned that we're gonna have to meet with you and EJP prior to construction to
Sure.
talk about your methodology, so just so you understand.
Yeah, that's no problem.
And the addition that, are you putting an addition on the house?
No, no,
No?
just repairing the banking.
Okay. So it's only repairing the bank. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And as far as the mitigation scenario, we're going to cut an alleyway down through, which is staked on the property. And that would, we'd end up using a combination of bayberry, winterberry, and beach plum, which there's already a significant amount of all of the above down there. They do very well. Planted 3 foot on center, I think, 3 gallon
We don't have
containers.
a planting plan, do we?
It's on the site plan. It's in their construction access.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's
Got
right.
this, yep.
Yeah, you see. Pretty straightforward.
How you doing with that, Jen? Is that,
That's fine.
okay. Then open it up to the board. Start with John.
Just so I'm clear, is the area that you're proposing to work in the box that is shown on, it looks like there's a box here? The steps here,
Yeah, that's correct.
This
This
is-
sort of long, linear.
that's where all the biologs are gonna go?
That follows the existing coastline
Okay.
pretty closely.
Do you anticipate, when you were cutting the roots on that beech tree that's right along the shoreline, how is that gonna affect the tree? I mean, is that
Yeah.
tree gonna come out, or?
No, the tree will stay, that's actually an oak.
Oh, it is?
Yes, yeah,
Oh.
that's an oak, and it'll be fine. You know, it'll get a good root pruning, and then ultimately what'll happen is, with those biologs in place, we'll replace the soil, and we'll actually get a chance to put on some new roots.
Okay.
So I'm not anticipating any issues with that tree. It's got a solid 3/4 of the root system's intact.
Okay, that's my questions.
Mike?
No questions.
Russ?
No questions.
Mary?
A couple things, they're not really questions. I noticed a section of fence there on the, kind of to the, I guess it's the north, the right of.
Northeast.
With our back to the house, looking at the water.
No.
If we had a plan up there, we
Looking,
could show you.
standing on the beach and looking up at the house.
Okay,
So
yeah.
to the right of the proposed
Yes.
work area,
Mhm.
there's a small section of fence, and I'm just wondering what the status of that is and if it's meant to stay there. It doesn't look like it belongs there.
I honestly, I have no idea. I can ask that question, but I know it's been way off of my radar as far as, what I've been focusing on, trying to fix, so I don't have the answer to your question.
Okay.
So-
And then the only other thing I would mention is, in principle, I don't really have a problem with this project, but under the regulations, a project like this on a coastal bank, I think the only accepted rationale for it is to protect a legally built structure. And I don't see that the structure is in any danger, in need of protection. So I'm not sure what the rationale for the project is and what we can do with that.
Well, I think the issue here is the vegetation that she has growing. I mean, ultimately, if we leave it be, what'll end up happening is that oak tree will end up falling down and dying, and then, subsequently, all the other plants that are in that sort of line of fire will, the ground will be unearthed, and things will come down. It'll be a sharper banking, and, versus a vegetated fix. So I think, the better of evils, I think this is probably, to fix it and just keep it so that it's not going to recede anymore, I think is logical.
I don't have an argument with the fact that it's logical, but I have a little bit of a problem under the regulations. That's for the board to
Yeah.
mull over. Thank you.
I want to be clear on something. Rereading this again, as the plan depicts, the proposed addition is to be located in a similar geographic location between the existing house and garage, which is on the lot. The proposed addition is further seaward than the existing structures on the lot.
Yeah, I think that doesn't belong in
I
there.
think Jack can address this one.
Somebody's got to.
Yeah.
I think, for the record, my name's Jack Landiscalli. I believe that's a Scribner's error. I know it is. We were working on two different projects. and I have a feeling that the narrative, portions of that narrative inadvertently got into this application. So what I'm going to do is go back, check the records, and submit the revised narrative. Having said that, there's two things. First, we have to show the new flood zone, so we would be asking for a continuance anyways, unless it can be approved, closed.
No, it's going to be a continuance.
Okay. And having said that, we'll give you the corrected first page of that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that does not give me the warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be pretty blunt. I'm pretty disappointed. You got something in here that there's a everybody has a first time, and that's great. Hold on, I have the floor, Jack.
Okay.
Right? And I don't want to get amped up. Okay. So everybody has a first time. I have to have a comfort level on a soft engineering. Inexperience, no matter how talented the contractor, I want them to realize exactly where I'm standing and this board stands on projects similar to this. We discussed about having a meeting beforehand. I've over the last several weeks, told engineers about communication between contractors and such. And now at my what ifs and, I think we can's and the stuff that's been rubbing me the wrong way. And then I get reading this and it just, oh, I'm sorry, that was a mistake. Yeah, it is. I'm almost off the soapbox, Jack. Almost. Okay? So I share some of the concerns about, we've had similar root cuts and things like that. That's understandable, and the common sense of it, you do, but I do have that other part of our regulation kicking in the back of my head. I'm being honest, I don't have the warm fuzzies. I gotta have a little more confidence in this than I have right now. All right? And that's gonna be accomplished by resubmitting the methodology correctly. That's gonna be resubmitted. A plan that has, a FEMA map that's from way back when? I have been exhausting myself as of late to help people with some of this FEMA poo-poo. And to not acknowledge that after all the stuff that's been going through, I'm disappointed. And I do not like saying that. And I'm going to slow down and step off the soapbox and let you explain.
I don't think I have to explain a whole lot, only because I want to say that I was hired for the site plan, okay, and to give Paul some peripheral assistance. The actual, and where that begins and ends, I can't tell you exactly. I'm not being an advocate for this project. I was just asked, because we did some prior work on this property, to supplement the filing or the preparation of the plan to be consistent with what's before you this evening. That's where I'm coming from. So I'll share the responsibility when it comes to a Scrivener's error. I'm not here to defend the project. I certainly understand your position. I mean, I would comment and say that you're right, based on your regulations, I could see the trouble with approving this. But I could also rationalize by saying, let's wait 5 years. Let's say we have a big storm and we lose half that bank, and now they're coming back to do 4 times the work they could have done 5 or 8 or 10 years earlier. So I certainly understand philosophically where you're coming from. I wasn't hired to do that. The plan is a year old. I'll be honest with you. It was an oversight. A year ago, it was right. It isn't right now. In fact, I'll take responsibility where it falls. The rest of it, it's someone else's responsibility. So if you have a question about the plan, I'd be happy to answer it right now.
I do have a follow-up question. Evidently, there was an earlier project that the original plan was developed for, is that right?
Say that again?
Or the, this plan is dated September 2013.
Right.
Was it drawn at that time for this project or for a different project and has been updated? I'm just getting at
It
the
was-
fact,
okay, it was
should
for-
it have a revision date also? That's all
I
I'm really
understand.
getting at.
It was for informational services, because a lot of times a person will come to you and they'll say, I want to do this, and the answer is, I don't know what you can do until you prepare a base plan. That routinely applies to additions onto existing houses, on lots that are undersized, that may not comply with zoning, and a host of other issues. And so, when you look at how the evolution of a project comes about, many times the first question is, or the first statement is, we got to figure out what you have. Then you make up your mind what you can do and can't do. Okay, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, but I'm not sure it answers my question. If this is the one and only plan that
No,
you've done
no,
for
because the
this,
original plan
fine.
didn't show.
If it needs a revision date, put that on too.
Yeah.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Jack, you did the narrative, right? Sort of? Or was
Yeah,
it
I'm pretty
doing-
sure I did
It just says,
narrate.
in addition, a detailed landscape plan has been provided. Is that the schematic on this, in that little construction area?
Yes, we
Yes.
worked on this together.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think the clerical part of it,
I think-
describing another project, sort of slipped its way into the,
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we
I
weren't
didn't catch
missing
this.
a landscape plan, and that's what
I'm sorry.
That's where I can,
I said, I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing a landscape plan.
Right.
Because it says a
Right.
detailed landscaping plan has been provided, and I just wanted to make sure it was that.
Right.
Showing the construction access.
I had the same confusion.
that's the guy.
And I had
Some
your
of these
confusion
questions-
about the addition
some
as
of
well.
these
Under the original thought, it was we were going to show it separately, and then when we saw this, we said, why don't we just show it on this plan? So,
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, just, yeah.
are you looking for a date certain to continue or another question?
No, I wanted to ask Paul a question. Paul, there's also going to be a condition that you can only work in low tide, because I have been on that property.
yeah, we'll work with the ties.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
need
want
to work
put
with
sheets
the
in
tides.
water.
Okay,
That doesn't make sense.
okay, so I think what the board is looking for is just a more robust methodology
Okay.
on how you're going to do this, what type of equipment.
Or maybe
you're
the
gonna
same
use.
project.
Hmm?
Maybe documentation on the same project instead of two different
Yeah, just,
projects.
yeah,
Yeah.
just beef up your methodology.
And there's another little detail, if I may, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Details of how the biologs are held in place shall be provided by others. I got an issue with that. That's
Well, I'll
right
tell
on
you
the
what,
plan.
I'll give you a narrative on that.
Yeah, that's,
I think that's a good call.
you know, thank you.
No,
You want to poke the bear, Jack? Come on in.
Just as a point of clarification, depending which biolog he buys from, each one has their own design standards.
So
So
now
if
you'll,
if he gets ABC biolog, there's standards one. If you get DEF biolog, that's standard two.
guess what? Now, before you even start this project, I want to know exactly what biolog you're going to use, and I want to know all kinds of information on it.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
So this was, this is going to get a continuance because we need to be a little bit more clear on what is being presented in front of us. I hope you understand that.
Yeah, I understand.
And I'm disappointed, and that's as strong a language as I want to use. And I'm looking forward to this being corrected so that we can close it and walk our way through it. Are you clear on what the board is requesting?
Yes.
Okay. Jen, is there anything else that
No,
you
Mr.
need?
Chairman, the next available continuance would be December 3rd hearing. Since you do not have, next week's just completely overbooked. and we don't have hearings on the 19th due to town meeting, November town meeting, and the next week is your Thanksgiving, so December 3rd is the next available hearing.
Is that acceptable with the applicant?
I don't think, I don't have a choice in the matter, do I?
Yeah, you could refuse and go with another date if you
No,
wanted.
no.
Either way, I'm
It's gonna
asking.
just put us in some cold weather, that's all. So be it.
And, okay,
Thank
On
you.
behalf of the applicant, I move that we continue the hearing to December 3rd.
Second.
that was Mary's motion. Mike's second. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on this project?
It's expensive.
Ed, you have to come up, if you could yield the podium for a moment, please.
This is my favorite subject, which is
Please identify.
protecting, Mark Rennie from National Conservation. This is my favorite subject, which is protecting coastal banks. And we found, I haven't had the advantage of seeing the plans, but generally, builders who do this stack these core logs up like this at a 45 or 50, because they're trying to preserve as much landward grass or whatever it is they want. Then when the core fails, the whole thing slumps down. You really should slope it at about 38 degrees, a 1 to 1.5 slope, so when the core fails, the sand sits at an almost slump angle, it doesn't continue to slump down. It's great if you put in plants into it, and that's critically important to, when the core does fail, then the plants, hopefully the roots hold it in, and your concern about anchoring is critical, because this is in a velocity zone or awfully close to it. I looked up the FEMA map, and it looks like it's,
Oh, it's in a velocity.
and anchoring is a real serious issue with them. Not likely to be a problem, but, you know, when it is a problem, then you're in deep yogurt, so.
Now, will you stack? with
No,
those?
before, hold on. When we have discussions, this gentleman, you can answer that call in a moment, but it's for the record. And Susan, that's why we have people announce themselves at the podium. If you'd like to answer a question from him, yield the podium, and then you can answer it.
One final thing, it's sometimes advantageous to put in a real irrigation system along the top to make sure it's fertilized and watered so that that planting really gets root, because that's what holds this thing together when the core disintegrates. And it makes a much more durable, a good solution for the homeowner and for the conservation of the land.
What do you mean by a real irrigation system?
I'm sorry,
You use the term a real irrigation system?
well, just
What-
something that,
You,
as opposed to having a sprinkler out there once in a while.
mhm.
Something that's at least reliable, so you help the plants get started.
Temporary above ground.
A lot of people
Temporary
just drop
above
the
ground,
plants in and
okay.
then they walk away, and sure enough, half of them die, and you don't get.
Real would be subsurface.
Yeah, I understand the point. I was wondering whether you,
Yeah,
would-
I-
temporary
just one
above
that's
ground is what you're
reliable.
talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Paul, if you'd like to address
No,
it.
I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Is there any other comments on this project in the audience? Seeing none, I'll call on the motion. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. See you on the 3rd. Please submit this material at least a week early so that we can preview it. All right? Thank you. All right. Oh, that was fun. Next is Nina's Marina Realty Trust, 306 Scranton Ave, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove approximately 122 linear feet of existing licensed bulkhead and boardwalk, remove licensed solid fill, replace and maintain a timber/vinyl sheet bulkhead for 293 linear feet, repair and reconstruct approximately 20 linear feet of stone riprap, conduct improvement dredging of approximately 298 cubic yards and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening, Mike. Jen, is there anything
I
at
will
this time?
save any of my comments until after Mr. Rickard's presentation.
Thank you.
Did I say that out loud? I did.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
My name is Michael McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and professional in survey, work for Homes and McGrath. We prepared the plans that have been filed with a notice of intent.
Lift up the screen. Peter, can you make that screen go?
Yeah.
Every time I try, it seems to get lower.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Noisy.
Yeah, I can't manage that.
I guess you have to be an engineer.
The old-fashioned way.
I thought there was an electronic.
Thank you, Peter.
A lot of experience with that screen.
This is Scranton Avenue. This is Falmouth Inner Harbor. The commission has approved various orders concerning the reconstruction of that house. And this is in a marine zone. This is an existing boat shed. And the piers are used heavily in the summer. And what the proposal is to basically take the existing bulkhead and move it back 12 feet, remove all the material in there, and also dredge a little bit of the bottom at the base. The existing set of 3 piles will be left in place. There's a substantial boat that sits there. We're also going to reconstruct this timber bulkhead, this timber bulkhead, this timber bulkhead, and reinstall the riprap. So in the notice of intent is a construction methodology, and I call your attention to number 3, the contractor shall read the order and understand the order of conditions.
Thank you, Mike.
So there is some limitations on the physical work in that in order to protect winter flounder, dredging is prohibited from January 15th through May 31st of any year, as recommended by the Division of Marine Fisheries. They did file a new letter with the commission, but it basically says they have the same recommendations that they made in 2011. It says that if the material that we're going to excavate is suitable for beach nourishment, it'll be offered to the town of Falmouth for the beach fill program. No beach filling will take place between May 31st and July 31st in any one year because of the horseshoe crab spawning season. So what we said is if the town takes the material, it can be stored in a suitable upland location until its appropriate time. After we went through the paperwork exercise, the existing, I meant to say, the next 2 or 3 steps talk about paperwork, but we identify this as a staging area, and we describe how this is going to be constructed first. There is existing mitigation plants here, but if you've gone out and looked, there are places that are holes in the bulkhead. So what you'd end up doing is basically taking it apart. We're driving vinyl sheeting behind. We're putting another layer of timber because the owner would prefer the look of timber versus vinyl. What they do then is they weld this is a cross-section for the new one. It's virtually the same when they do it in here, but they weld, they inspect these dead men and the tie rods, and if they don't need to be replaced, they just weld a new tie rod to the old one. So they're going to start here and basically come around and to here. Then they'll do this work. When they do this work, they build a dewatering basin that's shown on one of the plans in this area. Also, when they first start, they actually go in and excavate behind the bulkhead, and is a written description how they put a landfill liner on the inside so that when they're excavating, none of the material bleeds through and creates turbidity on the inside of the harbor. After the materials that were sampled there were almost, it was a predominantly sand and gravel with a very small percentage, less than 3% of silt. So the bottom line is that every excavation caused turbidity, but it's not as bad as if it was had a very substantial silt proportion of the sands. Then they're supposed to come over, do this portion of the bulkhead, and then replace the riprap. When they, what we've shown here is a cross-section through here, where we're showing that this bottom is brought all the way to elevation 6 to a place about 6 foot down, and there's a very shallow triangular wedge against the edge of the bulkhead. The plans that have been submitted are pretty detailed. There's a little, what I have done is sort of summarize and not read aloud the 22 different steps that are in the construction methodology. This is it's obviously land under the ocean and land containing shellfish. And we point out that when you make a new bottom, especially with as much sand as that is composed here, you should easily get more shellfish habitat. There's a small, beach, and then there's two small salt marshes. They're far away from the work itself, and none of those resource areas will be affected. What I did was I gave you the third sheet I gave you shows the entire lot, in case you're interested in the entire lot. I colored the areas that I thought were most important. There's a coastal bank. This is a man-made coastal bank. We found 1915 license, and we showed where the 1915 mean high water was on the plan before you, and we show you where the 1915 low water mark is. I also show on the plan there is a license that calls for a concrete structure, a concrete retaining wall, a concrete seawall. What we actually did is we went out and we staked out where the record location of that was, and we did excavation with a hydro excavator, and we didn't find any remnants of the concrete there, which was, I thought was, I was very worried about the concrete, to be blunt. But we didn't find any evidence, so apparently it was removed. There has been subsequent work that moved the seawall more into Falmouth in the harbor, I think in the 60s. I don't think it's going to affect land under the tidal action whatsoever. It will. This lies in a velocity zone. This is the new velocity zone. Theoretically, the waves, if the wind is within 15 degrees of the center line of the harbor, waves will be generated. And removing this will only affect my client's waterfront. It will not affect anyone else. I don't think that we have any impact on any other resource areas. The dredging, we furnished you with a copy of the later license. We gave you copies of the report of the grain size analysis from the samples that were taken in the water. I'm sorry, of the bottom in the water by boat. So I believe that this is an absolutely approvable project, and I stand ready to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mike. Ken?
Mike, can you give me your methodology again? So the outer bulkhead will stay until the inner bulkhead is created, correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's described.
No, I just read it like 3 times. Outer bulkhead will stay until the inner bulkhead is constructed.
Yeah, at number 14, the contractor shall furnish and install a floating boom in the waters of Falmouth Harbor. On the seaward side of the bulkhead, the contractor shall furnish and install a plastic landfill liner attached on the face of the sheetings between the bale beams and below the lower wheel beams. The ends will be overlapped a minimum of 12 inches. Landfill liner will be securely attached to the existing elements of the bulkhead. Over the landfill liner, the contractor shall install 3/4 inch plywood. The contractor securely attach the plywood to the elements of the wooden bulkhead. If the sheeting is degraded at the intersection of the wheel beam, a cleat will be installed to secure the plywood. The system will prevent any soil from passing through the bulkhead. If you bang to the side, there are
So that
places.
means the outer bulkhead is gonna stay until the inner one is
Yeah.
constructed. Thank
And,
you. All I need to know.
but
I read that 3 times, Mike. Just wasn't as clear.
the bottom line is, if you look, there's holes in this. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we didn't create a big turbid plume that's I've sometimes seen out there. Private people, I'll be quiet.
Wise. Okay,
You all set, Jen?
yes. One more thing. Mike, your time of year restriction, is that for your whole project or just for your dredging?
DMF is the
Yeah.
one that gave us,
Yeah. DMF.
what, DMF is the one that identified the two different, it's not me, it's DMF. They know more about fish than I do.
So your winter flounder for your dredging, do you have a time I don't have their letter right in front of me, but do you have a time of year restriction on the creation of the bulkhead? And that work?
There's no dredging from January 15th through May 31st. So it seems to me that we can do the work on the,
Okay, that's what.
we can do all the other work.
'Cause that's
We just
how I
can't
read
do the,
You just can't do the dredging.
theoretically, this is the only real dredging.
Yeah.
Theoretically, this is excavation of upland.
Correct.
Okay,
All set?
yes, thank you.
We'll start on my right. Mary?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave this to my fellow commissioners, but, and I didn't catch all of what was said about the timing of things, but are you anticipating this being done by January 1st? Or referring to the winter flounder window and?
No, you're the first permit of an onion skins. I need a special permit from the Board of Selectmen, I need a water quality certification, I need a Chapter 91 license, I need an Army Corps of Engineers. So there's 5, so this work wouldn't proceed for another year,
Another year.
because there's,
Okay.
as I was quoted in the paper, we're the cradle of bureaucracy. It used to be the cradle of freedom.
Okay, and I think others are better qualified to have an opinion on this, but I just look at the watering basin, and it strikes me as small for such a large, massive amount of materials removal.
Go ahead.
I think that I will have to look at it.
That's all for me now. Thank you.
Les?
I'm good with this, I've got no questions.
Mike?
When they drove the vinyl sheets, both on the other side of the harbor from the town to Falmouth Yacht Club, they had problems with getting the penetration they didn't get, and I guess it's one issue when you're not gonna dredge and another issue when you are gonna dredge. And my concern is that you're gonna get to a point and it isn't gonna be deep enough, and at some point it's coming back. And I guess I'm sure there are technical solutions, but some conditions that would have you notify us if there is problems in driving, is okay?
Sure. The other point is there's already bulkheads at, generally, the vinyl sheeting, if you drive it behind the existing wood, it generally goes right in.
Well, that certainly wasn't the case across the harbor, so that sheeting did not get down all the way in several locations.
The point is the structural engineer should have gone out there and adjusted the, for instance, the deadman or the amount of ties. So,
I'm back to what protecting the resources. On the other
Yep.
side when they couldn't get quite the penetration they had, you had the other structures in place and it was okay, and it was to prevent sand, and I felt pretty comfortable. Here you're gonna be dredging at the toe of the new bulkhead. And if that sheeting isn't deep enough, you're gonna have more of a problem than you might think. And all I'm saying is, I'm sure there's ways of getting the sheeting in, even if it's steel sheeting. I'm sure you guys can do it, but I just want us to know that it's done.
I understand.
Okay.
It's a suitable condition to notify you of any changes.
And by the way, I applaud you on your details and methodology. You could follow it very nicely. That's to be commended.
Thank you.
John?
I just have one question regarding the sediment sampling, because you said that you're going to dredge to 6 feet mean low water, and it appears to me that the sampling only went to 5 feet mean low water. It's not clear if that's significant, but it seems to be a difference of a foot. I'm not sure if it would be more fine below that. That's my real question.
What you're pointing out is that the samples I believe that the samples you're talking about are the ones in the water, where the samples on the shore did get down deep enough, and that's where the majority of the excavation is. And I also tell you that I witnessed the hydro excavation, and we went down, I'm pretty sure we're very close to the -6. So we ran into nothing but sand. There was an occasional, I don't know how to describe that. There was an occasional smoke over when we did the hydro excavation.
Okay.
That's good?
Yeah.
All right. Jumping back on number 4 on your methodology. The contractor shall give written notice to the Conservation Commission. The contractor shall submit a written methodology using this methodology as a guide and adjusting the steps for any additional specific descriptions of the work and to adjust for any changes. So I think that would describe your sheeting. Any adjustments in that? I think that's part of what this entails.
But that's true, but what happens if he starts driving and he hits an obstruction? He might already have, a third of it done. So
Right.
it's what happens if he hits an obstruction.
Yes.
The vinyl sheeting doesn't go by the obstructions. So.
I was comfortable with what was described, but I did share your concern about the toe on the new material being removed, the dredging portion of that. However, that's been answered. this time, I could take a motion if we have enough information.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
That would be Russell's motion. Do you have a DP number, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. And Mike's second. At this point in time, I'd like to open it up. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to discuss this project? Seeing none, last comment on the board? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. Next up is continued request for a hearing under a notice of intent versus the town of Falmouth, Oyster Pond Road, for permission to repair approximately 185 linear feet of existing rubble mound revetment that includes dismantling rocks, installation of geotex fabric base with 1.5-foot thick, bedding stones with a single layer of armor stone at a 2-to-1 slope, 590 cubic yards of deep nourishment along the face of the revetment, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Mr. Chairman, Russ, can you read the quorum on this for me, please? Thank you.
As soon as we have the quorum, gentlemen, you'll be able to begin.
Did we ever even open this?
Yes, yes, we did.
Okay, Mario, Mary, Russ, Tom, Mike, and John.
Okay.
That was 8/27/14.
Yep, we had to wait for other people to
We
respond.
continued the project because we needed the town to have a discussion with Natural Heritage to make sure that they were okay with the construction methodology and timing, given the recent last summer's presence of piping clovers in that area. So I asked,
Now I remember.
you remember this one?
Yes.
Okay, that's why it was continued.
It's not elusive.
Good evening.
Good evening, Peter McCarthy, Town Engineer. I just want to say if anyone's missing the lottery ticket, I found it. I don't know if there's any winners on it, but I'll share it with whoever wants to come forward. Peter McCarthy, Town Engineer. I'd like to defer this revision and this update to our consulting engineer, Trey Ruthven, from with Applied Coastal. I'll be available to ask any questions as far as the construction or any project-related questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, Trey Ruthven from Applied Coastal on behalf of the town. I'll just quickly go over the project again since it's been roughly 2 months or so since you last saw us. The project is roughly 530 feet southwest of the Trunk River kind of inlet to the south towards Woods Hole. The project itself is a repair of an existing revetment that's slowly unraveled. The revetment just to the north, approaching Trunk River, has been repaired in the past, and it's just a continuation of those repairs. The repair section itself is roughly 185 feet long. It'll just be deconstructed on site and then reconstructed using, starting with a geotextile core bedding layer and then just a single layer of armor stones. The beach face will slope down on a 2-in-1 slope down to the beach, and we're proposing to put a beach nourishment on the face of it to help kind of nourish the system along there. It's just a one-time nourishment as opposed to a kind of recurring annual nourishment. The nourishment is roughly 2.9 cubic yards per linear foot, or 590 cubic yards total. Last time we got to this point, went through the questions, and we deferred waiting to hear from Natural Heritage. Natural Heritage we've had discussions with, and they found the project will not adversely affect any resource habitat areas or will not result in prohibited take of any plovers or any other endangered species. So they're fine with the project and had no conditions for it. Do you have any further questions?
We are going to find out. Starting with Jen. Open it up to the board. John.
No questions.
Mike.
I'm glad the birds are happy.
Russ.
No questions.
Mary.
No questions.
And I would entertain the motion if we have enough information to close this hearing.
Move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
That's Mary's motion. Mike's second. At this point in time, I'd open it up to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to discuss this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I was just gonna say that. Could be tempting.
I don't have my glasses. You got any glasses, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, well, I can't even.
Glad to share it with you.
Well, put it in my hands. Thanks a lot.
Doesn't that violate some different?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, somebody's gonna see this and just absolutely go over the top on it. Did you see it? He did it on camera. Next is 84 Ransom Road for permission to add a second floor to the existing house, expand the garage, widen the driveway, construct a porch, install retaining walls, steps, gas line, remove an oak tree, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. And the quorum is,
Mario, Mary, Russ, Tom, Mike, and John.
thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker from BSS Design. I prepared this plan for the Spalls on 84 Ransom Road. When we met last, there were a couple things to add to the plan. The main one, I believe, was they wanted to see all the trees that are on the bank. So we've done that and more, or maybe I should say less. The project, for cost considerations, we've removed the expansion of the driveway. It's no longer going to be a two-car garage. So that's 283 square feet less of impervious surface that's going to be created on the lot. Actually, 283 square feet for the driveway and about another 30 square feet. That was more than 300 square feet that we've taken out of the project. You can see on the plan, the only additions now is there will still be, the front porch area will be moved a little bit away from the wetland. That'll be an increase of about 6 square feet in that location. There's that, and there's by the side door to the garage, a gravel area with some steps going up along the side of the garage to get to to be able to access along the side of the house. And on the other plan, there were a couple of bay windows. There's a bay window in here, and it turns out they're just going to put in a flat window, so that's, even though that bay window never touched the ground, but it was counted as coverage then, but it's not going on now. So I mean, they'll be taking down the house to the foundation. They can beef up the foundation. Don't need to get into this now, but filling the voids with concrete or block foundation to and rebar to reinforce it some if it needs that. So they'll be rebuilding the house basically on the same footprint except for the front porch, which will be moved slightly away from the resource area. Having to do with the trees, there was some concern that there were some of the trees that felt would interfere with the second story. And I went there and I didn't see it. There is one tree, a pair of small trees, or a forest tree up here, at the back left corner, which is black locust. Not one of the favorites of the commission. That one, because of the oak trees further down the bank, that locust tree is growing out over the house. There would have to be trimmed to put on a second floor, being a non-native invasive. We're just proposing to cut it down. The tree in the front yard, it's a larger oak tree, which before, when we were widening the driveway, putting in the retaining wall, was going to remove anyway. That tree is growing over the house, even from such a distance away. Doesn't have many lower branches. Trimming it, I feel it might do more damage. Be taking some of the crown, canopy away. So we are proposing to take that tree out and put in a native tree. That was on the last proposal. We're still proposing to take that tree out and replace it with a native tree. So all told, I have a little tabulation of the surface here. We have when some of that parking area be changed over to grass, we have a net increase of no square feet of impervious surface from this project. So I feel that with the reduction in scope, the very minimal expansion of any surfaces around this house, that it's a good project. And take your questions.
Thank you, Tom. Jen?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Tom, thanks for looking at those trees when you're going up with that second floor. So I appreciate that.
Report, John.
The concrete steps that are along the road, those are coming out, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Mike?
I think we talked about hay bales across the end of the driveway. At some point, we're doing before that wall's put in.
We did, when we were talking about expanding the driveway and putting in a new retaining wall. There will be some work to the driveway, and I just realized we have a couple of dry wells going in under the driveway, so there will be some work under the driveway, but that'll be fairly quick and buttoned up quickly.
If it's sandy, it's all okay. I'm just a little concerned that you're gonna be putting that wall, which is pretty high, and it's coming down, you get sand, something rolling down, it's gonna end up in the, what is not a drainage ditch, but we call a drainage ditch.
Mosquito creek.
Yeah, I would say.
Thank you.
That's all. So some provisions, we can condition that.
Absolutely.
I'm happy.
Yes.
No questions.
Mary?
No questions.
I have no questions. Is there enough information for the board?
Make a motion, we close the hearing and take it as advised.
Second?
That'd be Mike's motion, Mary's second. At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment on this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 180 Waterside Drive, North Falmouth, for permission to remove ornamental trees and plantings installed by neighbor, install native trees and shrubs to be monitored and maintained, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was continued for DEP number only,
And do we have that?
and we have received it.
Yeah, we see this. I
Move to close and take it under advisement.
Second.
Mayor's motion, Mike's second. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 12 Nichols Road, McCoy, Mass, for permission to renovate the existing house by reconfiguring the first floor layout, adding a second-story addition to the house, a new addition to the front of the house to install dry wells, native mitigation plantings, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was continued for a DEP number. The applicant has provided architecturals for the board, and Mike needed to change one of his plan notes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering. Since we didn't have a DEP file number and there were a couple comments near the end of the hearing, I thought it would make sense to just revise the plan since I had time, give you the architectural plans. And then I submitted a letter because at the very end of the hearing, I think my plan may have caused some confusion. I think it was Commissioner Shoemaker especially who read a note that was actually incorrect on my plan. Took it off the plan. It was on a different plan. And the note described some of the work on the project in a way that is not what's intended. It said that the second-story addition was limited to 200 square feet, and it is not. The attic space that's there, the floor area that's already there for the attic floor is going to be converted into living space from attic space. So the second story is not only going to be 200 square feet. I was concerned there'd be a condition that when, in fact, that's not the case. The addition that's outside the footprint, it is 2 stories, is limited to 200 square feet or less. So I was just concerned, I was afraid that I had misconstrued the project, so I had a chance to clarify it, and that's what I did. There's no questions.
Thank you.
Mike, is that the 10:30 revision? Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, no, I have no more.
Mary?
I have no questions. Thank you for doing that, for providing these.
Questions?
No question. You should note that poor narratives are not received warmly by the board, and rather spared than
Well, I heard that loud and clear a little earlier, so I thought
There you go.
I'd make a statement before anyone else had an opportunity to.
We weren't picking on you the last time, that's all we're saying. That's all.
John?
No questions.
My only comment is, I love the staggered parking, one behind the other, but it'd always be me in the front spot. It'd just be my lot in life. If we have enough information, I would entertain a
Make a
motion.
motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
That's Russell's motion, Mary's second. At this point in time, open it up to anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this property. Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Did you need?
Russell, if you're looking for the,
Yes, I just went to grab that too.
I couldn't find my copy of Jack's site plan, so I just grabbed the file.
Next.
Here, I got it.
Next is continued
just gonna
request
keep
to
the plan.
amend the existing order of conditions, Black Beach Harbor Head Association, Little Neck Bars Road, Black Beach Hills Road, Gilbert Lane, and Drift Road, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to amend the existing order of conditions to remove trees and shrubs, to regrade and install hardener in cul-de-sac located at the east end of Little Neck Bars Road.
Good evening, Tom.
Good evening.
Could we table this until Mr. President?
Actually, you're gonna have to go right up there, please.
For the record, my name is Jack Landers, colleague. Could we table this until Mr. Resnikoff shows up? He should be here in about 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion for that?
Motion to table the hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Discussion on a conservation restriction, 53 Hunt Street.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you all received a conservation restriction for 53 Hunt Street a few weeks back. This was actually a requirement in an order of conditions that you issued. Let me get the date real quick. You issued an order of conditions for 53 Hunt Street, and special condition 3 requires that the applicant have an approved CR filed with the registry of deeds prior to starting work. So they have filed that, covers about 76+% of the lots at 53 Hunt Street. And there's really no reserved rights for this, that they're reserving any rights other than some basic reserved rights, pruning and cleaning up the area. There is a drainage easement for the town that runs through that property, so they are reserving the right to install, construct, maintenance, or repair drainage pipes because we do have, the town of Falmouth does have a drainage easement through that, along the side. Other than that, we reviewed this, and you'll probably see it one more time, because it does need to go to the state for review and comment. So if you have any comments regarding that, I can take those down and forward them to the applicant's representative that was unfortunately not able to be here this evening, but wanted me to present the CR to you.
Thank you. Open it up to the board. Are there any concerns with the CR as described, as is being discussed?
I have a couple questions.
Sure, please.
And,
I will try to answer these.
yeah, right, I was expecting Ms. Moynihan to be here for this, but on page 1,
Yes.
the next to last paragraph that begins, this conservation restriction is defined. It says, its purpose is to assure that the conservation restriction area will be retained in perpetuity, predominantly in its natural, scenic, and open condition. And I'm just wondering if that word predominantly is just some kind of standard qualifier, or what does that mean? Why is it there?
I can have,
It occurred to me that it might be there because there's a house on the premises, but in the preceding paragraph, they define the house to be outside,
The house-
not part of the
yeah.
conservation
the house
restriction.
is not part of the
So
conservation
I
restriction.
don't, it's the kind of thing that, you know me,
Okay, no, I will ask Attorney Monahan that, and, do you want the word removed?
I just, I really am, I would just like to know what is envisioned as not, as upsetting just a blanket statement. What could happen that they're trying to, not be accountable for? I just don't understand why that word is there. And if predominantly means over most of the area, or for the most part, or what does it mean?
Okay.
What would be suitable if you had an explanation, or do you need to have that word removed?
I don't know. I'm really disappointed she's not here, because I thought she would just respond to the question and I'd be satisfied, but I'm not really conjuring up anything that,
I'm wondering if it applies to the drainage easement.
That's what I was thinking.
That's, because that's addressed later on. And in here.
that would satisfy me.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it, is that, because there are certain activities that would be allowed, one of them would be that drainage easement. And I could see just legalese using the word predominantly to describe
Yeah,
most of the lot except for.
right. I mean, if they have something specific in mind, they could write in except for.
I can,
I just wonder if it's a weasel word,
And
That we-
that's, I can appreciate the concern. However, the reserve rights are pretty clear.
Yeah,
Other activities outside of that scope would be viewed as a negative to that.
I can ask her if she'll just remove the word.
yeah, I mean, if she doesn't have any problem, fine, that's great. I wasn't necessarily planning to ask for that much, I just really
Oh, okay.
wanted to be enlightened.
I can send an email tomorrow and ask.
Okay, thank you.
This is,
Are there I didn't see the plan. Are there trails across that?
there's not real trails going through there. No.
I mean,
Not the
is
plan.
it that,
The
it's
plan
in
is-
an actual
Oh,
state? Yeah, somebody has
Jen,
a trail for
I
access
do have one other
across.
question.
Sure.
Wait a second. Well, that's the drainage easement. Is there a plan of the entire lot and what
Exhibit A?
constitutes?
It should have been the first claim you come across after
Yeah, okay.
this one.
All right, thanks.
Royalton says it should be dated, with a
September
lower revision
30th.
date of October 6, 2014.
I believe the lots to the north of this are developed.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually remember when we had this
Right.
whole CR before us. Yeah, okay, thank you.
So do you feel
I'm fine.
you're fine with it as described? Okay.
Thank you.
No, anything else there? Any other small edits or anything you want me to?
No, thank you.
This does have to go to the state, it does need to be reviewed and commented by the state, and most likely will come back to you. So, they just wanted your comments and everything prior to sending it off to the state, but I will let her know that. The board will want one more review from it before it's finalized from the state, if the state has any,
Major change.
major changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we take a vote on letting this go past?
I have one
Oh, yes,
comment.
please.
Just, I think regarding Mary's comment, I think it is kind of a general language that's just kind of describing the property, because it does get fairly specific about what uses are allowed, and they're limited to pruning, I think, and then there's the drainage easement that cuts through that. When, in the paragraph concerning breach of restriction, I was wondering if 60 days seems like too much time, because it seems, I mean, that's a fairly substantial amount of time. And it is kind of providing for corrective action to take place, but as long as it's initiated within a certain amount of time, that's allowable. So it seems like even if it was 30 days, as long as something's been started within 30 days,
So you want the
that meets
60
the
to be
conditions.
30?
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, it seems 60 is a little too much.
Okay.
As long as they've started something, I mean, that's really what should be required.
I love this board.
So basically start corrective action within 30 days.
Yeah, I think that's enough time, as long as they've taken some steps
Okay.
and
Right.
they're being diligent about it.
Process is being engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Got it.
otherwise, if it's 2 months and then they say, well, we talked to somebody on
Gives
59
initiative to-
days, then, yeah,
It gives initiative to keep it on the forefront.
right.
Are there any other points of interest? I'd entertain motion. This needs a motion, vote to go
Yeah, you
forward.
can vote it in draft form, and then you'll see it one more time before it's finalized, just for a quick review.
Is that a motion that somebody would like to make?
Move to approve
With the-
this draft
Yeah,
for forwarding to the state.
correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Should we throw in there with John's?
Yeah, with John's correction,
Yeah.
I'll email her those corrections and the concern about the word predominantly.
Yeah.
Or just that's what I mean.
With John's.
Okay.
So we have the motion and a second. Mike? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much. Can we untable
Move to untable
Black Beach
Black
Head?
Beach.
Okay. We have a second.
Second.
That was John's motion, Mike's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Good evening, Jack.
For the record, my name is Jack Landers Colley. I'm a civil engineer in private practice. And with me this evening is Bill Resnikoff. And we are here to request a minor modification of the order of conditions which was issued to Black Beach Harbor Head Association less than a year ago, or actually a little over a year ago. it is we intend to do is some minor removal of vegetation in this area. And let me back up a second. For those people who weren't sitting on the board, let me give you a little information. We submitted on behalf of, I'll call it Black Beach, and a notice of intent to do extensive road upgrades, somewhere in the order of about a mile, maybe a little bit more. And it's that order of conditions which we are requesting be modified. We believe we have a right to request it as an amended order of conditions because it is an extremely minor change in the overall scope of the project and consistent with the original project itself, which was making certain drainage improvements as a condition to the road maintenance. And I'm classifying this as a road maintenance project. So on that basis, I think we have standing to come before you. Having said that, when we were doing the project, it wasn't brought to the attention of Black Beach, nor myself, that this was an issue. It was kind of an oversight of a very large project. And so some 1 year and several months later, we come back and are making this request. We're making it because there was an oversight. Having said that, it's important to say that because some of the information we have here is from that old submission. And in particular, the bordering vegetated wetlands was delineated by Vaccaro Associates. It was less than 3 years ago, and therefore, I think we have as a matter of right to say that we can use this bordering vegetated wetlands that was originally approved in the application. I say that because we didn't physically go out and do it again. It was less than a 3-year period. Now, what it is, they would like to do is remove the vegetation in this area. We have an existing traveled way, it's gravel. It's defined by this dashed line. And it kind of goes, not in a circular manner, but kind of in a circular manner, then a little bump, and then another little bump and around and back. And this was all done by on-the-ground instrument survey less than 5 months ago, because we had to pick up this detail. In addition, we located the trees in this area because we understood that it's important to locate the trees within the vicinity of the proposed activity. We also located a hydrant, and we stated the conditions of the trees, that is, whether or not they were alive or dead, that sort of thing. The purpose of this improvement is Bill residents who happens to live here, as well as the neighbor over here, as well as are greatly impacted by this. And ancillary or incidental to that, so aren't the other neighbors, because this is the far east end of this road. This is where the garbage trucks, the other public service vehicles, whether it be police, fire, what have you, have to turn around and come into this end. And one of the problems is, like, with many of the dirt roads we have in the community, the vegetation doesn't stop growing. We have a defined road. Every year, if it was a private road or even a public road and it wasn't near a wetlands, people would go back and they'd cut back the brush once a year, twice a year, maybe once every 5 years. That wasn't done here. And what has happened is it has grown in, and the turning radius, as you can imagine, is getting smaller and smaller. And that is one of the reasons why I showed this 27.5-foot radii. And what we did is we took the center point, and it's 27.5 feet in this direction, thereabouts over here. And we wanted to show it to you because that's important to realize that when you, if you were to go to the planning board, they would require a minimum 60-foot turning radius, less 4 to 5 feet, because the actual layout is bigger than the physical surface itself. So what I wanted to show you is this is consistent with what a normal turning radius would be in the community. We are asking for permission to clear this vegetation, not remove this tree, even though it's shown here. We're going to work around it so we can improve public utilities or even private enterprises from coming down, turning around and leaving without backing into our neighbors, our clients' property, without driving over their driveway, without driving over their landscape, which is on this side, nor having to back up and go down this narrow road or make this turn, because this turn is not a very big turn. As you can see, there's the gravel way here, this gravel way is here. We don't think it's unreasonable. It was larger, according to testimony given by Mr. Resnikoff and his neighbors. It was larger, and we're only asking that 5 feet be removed and allow us to do anywhere from 6 inches to a foot of grading and resurface with either a dense graded crushed stone or some other type of hydro surface, and then walk away and be able to maintain that periodically. 2 issues were raised by the staff that I should address. One, Jen said, well, who owns the property? Bill Resnikoff and another an associate that lives in the neighborhood did the research, and it's their opinion that the neighbor over here owns it. The second is Jen wanted to, as I understood, wanted to say, how can we replicate what the turning radius is that we're proposing to be certain that it's always the same, because likewise, you don't want it to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And my answer to that is we can set up a survey baseline that's permanent and could be replicated, whether it be next year, 10 years from now, or until I'm not practicing or someone else takes over. But we can give that information both to the town and to Mr. Resnikoff and his associates. So that's what's before you this evening. Actually, we do note that one dead cedar is going to be removed. It's this one right here. Only for the help of the trees around it. It's kind of snarled in with another tree. And we also noted there's, I think, 1 or 2 other dead cedars at the time of this survey. So that's it before you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Jen?
You're only proposing to remove that one dead cedar?
Correct.
Okay. How many square feet of shrub material are you taking out of there, Jack? My reference
I can
is-
calculate it. It's approximately 5 feet by this length.
Yeah, and it's about 100 feet.
I'm sorry, say that again?
About 110 feet, so give or take.
So 550 is what you're, okay.
And what are you gonna do with the surface again?
It's going to be treated the same way as the rest of the road, which it'll be just level, because there's a little bit of a hump, you know how they get the windrow. And we're recommending they put a hardener down. In other words, you know, if you have a sand, all the sand's going to do is
You know what my
move.
major problem was on this road? Where's that drainage gonna go? Because it's not gonna go into my wetland, which is 20 feet away. That was the whole basis of this whole big project was drainage. And
I'm not sure I
stop the
can answer
drainage
that.
right there at, you know, you see where your utility pole is? Is that where your last project terminated, correct?
Okay, wait a second. You're talking about this one, right?
Yeah? So if you're gonna put a hardener
That's where the
down.
end of the stationing was, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was so specific as to say that we can't make improvements somewhere else, but being cautious and trying to be forthright, we're coming and we're telling you we want to do this.
I just, where is it gonna go? You're gonna grade it so it goes down, so it doesn't go towards the wetland, correct?
Well, let me answer it this way. I truly don't know, because I'd have to take some shots, see which way it flows. And that's the honest answer. I don't know.
And I appreciate that, thank you.
I know right now, because of the brow and the way dirt roads are, you get a little bit of a lip. So yeah, that lip could be just right in here, or it could be higher or it could be lower. I honestly don't know. I can take a look at it and give you a definitive answer. I hadn't anticipated that question, otherwise I would have been prepared for it. But, so let me just...
So you're moving 550 square feet of shrubs. We don't know what the drainage pattern is in that little circle area.
Well, I don't know.
And we're only removing that one tier.
Yeah, perhaps Bill comment on that.
So, if you're gonna, hold up, if you're gonna go and address the board. Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you how we're running the meeting. You go up to the podium, Jack's gonna yield, you're gonna identify yourself for the record, and that's how we go. Okay?
Thank you very much, I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
Let me just correct one statement.
For the record, could you please tell who you
Okay,
are?
my name is Bill Resnikoff.
Thank you.
There was one statement made that I just want to correct. The original work on the road a year and a half ago, which was approved, did not stop at the utility pole.
Okay.
It included the circle.
Okay.
And so the structure of the drainage that was approved and was put in there is what we would have.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may,
I just looked at this and saw the line and then the station, so I figured that's where it stopped.
if I may, are we saying that there's a structure, a drainage structure at the end of this?
No.
Okay.
In this area of that proposed project, it was, the word is escaping me, pushing the road a certain last year. Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, Jack has made his presentation. Are there any other concerns, Jen, from you?
It's awfully close to that wetland, but, yeah, so that's all my only comments.
Okay. John?
I have no questions.
Okay. Mike?
My Ford Ranger does a 360 in that existing turnaround, I believe it's called. But I can see where a larger truck could not. So in terms of, I think there's a need, it is, I'm fair with that. I think they've done pretty well with what you can do. And from my information, how is the drainage coming in? The road looks much better than it did prior. How's that new drainage standing up?
By and large, I think the drainage is working well. It is true that after or associated with any major water event, of which we've had quite a few recently, there are potholes dug in the road. But it still is superior to what it was, and it's relatively easy to fix, and we don't fix it before we notify Concom.
So for the most part, we've had a bit of a success story here?
Yeah, I would say it's not a perfect success, but it's a good, it's reasonable success.
Glad to hear that. Thank you.
Just to embellish on that a little bit, we did rebuild the swales. They were reshaped, and we gave a report, a yearly report, month and a half ago? I guess a month and a half ago, that everything is actually in very good shape right now. So.
Russ?
I'm good.
Mary?
I don't have anything. Actually, there is one question, I think. It's been a couple months, so my memory isn't clear, but my impression was when I went there that there's a big tree, it has a sign on it, and it looked to me like it was in the path of what you're planning to do, and...
Right here. There's a footpath right here. The sign I remember, I thought was right on the end of the hydrant. If the sign was fixed to a tree, if it was a freestanding sign, we would have located it. If it was fixed to a tree, we would have the tree further back.
Okay, well, anyway, it appeared to me to be in the proposed area of clearing, so that's what I wanted to ask, is whether in fact, I don't know, 12 inch, 10, at least 10-inch diameter tree.
Well, we did find a 10-inch cedar here, 14-inch cedar, a 16-inch cedar, and I know it's not unusual here. I thought I saw a sign going to the bike path. Maybe that's the sign you're speaking of?
I'm sorry, I can't remember better, I should have rechecked this, but my recollection is that it was saying something, something prohibitive about the area.
I think what you're talking about is the tree that we've said we're not going to touch.
Okay, that's all I wanted to verify, okay. So you're gonna work around that, because it is in the, I mean, my impression was correct, right, that it is in the,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
It's also close to this hydrant.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's not a perfect solution, but we know you don't want us to cut down trees, so we had to do the best we could.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mary. You just described what I was gonna ask, because I was like, well, you got this, you're doing it. You don't think that trash truck's gonna hit the cedar?
Yeah.
Well,
and
if we make it a little bit bigger, it has a better chance of avoiding it.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is this entire road, I think, is a challenge for all of these oversized vehicles, and the fact that the turning radius isn't what it is every place else doesn't strike me as surprising at all. But it's just my observation.
Thank you. Maybe some bounds set on that radius so as to know where encroachment could be and not be.
Well, I think, okay, as a practitioner, the simplest solution is I set a bound at the center point, the radius point.
I'm not looking for simple, I'm looking for real.
Well, what I mean by that is, if we set it so it's flush to the ground and 3 inches down.
I understand that.
Anyone
I want you
can
to
come
hear
back.
what I'm saying, that the trash truck comes in, and actually, I'm looking at something that's similar to some of the other guardrails you have out there, just so there's a physical limit of what is there, because this is the end of the earth right here. And your marker, the only one that's gonna use it is you. It's not gonna be the guy driving the truck down there and backing it in. The only one that's gonna use it is you, so that when they call you to say, we're gonna come down to Concom, and thank you for bringing everybody up to date when you do the road maintenance, which that's permitted, and that's what the whole wonderful episode leads to, is your ability to repair that road without it being an issue. Kudos for doing that. That's the whole thing that we wanted to have done. That there's a low level, so it doesn't interfere with plowing, you can push up to it, you know, you got a tree there, you don't have to put it in front of the tree, you know, but just something so that this radius, where you're going out, where you start, I almost want to tell you to taper this a little bit more. Being someone who drives equipment, and let's say that challenges aren't always seen, all right, that, you know, if it's an early morning or a late afternoon pickup now, where it gets dark, that's a late run, you're not gonna see the marker in the middle of that. What I'm worried about is them smashing stuff over on the side. And I would
Do you want a guardrail, Mr. Chairman?
well, something, I don't want it to be cost prohibitive and all that, just something very basic and a cheap little reflector so that if somebody's driving down there, which is what you want them to do instead of backing down, that that's lit up in the early morning or late afternoon when, in the fall season, so that they catch, the headlights catch it, and their strobes are going right into his living room as they're turning the truck around and then heading their butts out.
So are you saying you wanted this edge to line?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep, just something, and where you stop at the right past the 9-inch cherry, when you're going towards the neighbor, this dirt driveway to the west, you can taper that out. It seems very abrupt, unless it widens there naturally. But, you know, just something that,
Well, this is all survey, so I have to say.
no, I mean,
Is what you
on
say.
the north side of the road, this
Yeah.
right in here,
Yeah.
it seems abrupt, it just stops right here. I don't mind, form follows function, I'd rather have something that functions well than to make it too narrow and have it not perform as you need it. You've gone through the effort of doing this, which is appreciated, but as long as, and recollection is light, because it has been months ago, if it needs to go out further so as to allow somebody to swing, to make that, the beginning part of that, then to swing around and turn the truck.
Yeah.
That's all, form follows function. You know, it's a necessity, and I understand it. But I also want to safeguard it, so in the future, when he comes in, as they do for the maintenance of the road, they do, we're gonna just do X, Y, Z, because it's in, you know, it's in a really good state, it's in a good place, that's recorded, and nobody can dispute it. Making maintenance that much easier in the future. They don't have to call you to put the center in the road.
Right.
They got that physical barrier, so that's
Okay,
just.
I need to speak to Bill about that, because that's, I hadn't envisioned that either. But it's certainly something we can discuss and get back to you about.
Outstanding. Because I could see that being,
Do you want a continuance, Mr. Chairman, or do you
Or-
want a condition?
Could you repeat that?
when did you anticipate?
Continuance or condition it?
No, I'm willing to tell you that we will show you, we'll actually put on this plan something that is satisfactory to the staff. What I'll do is I'll speak to
Oh,
Bill.
you're not satisfying the staff now, you're satisfying the board.
So we're
Well, I
gonna
assume that's
continue
one and
this
the
to
same.
Yeah,
December-
no, it's not,
we're gonna
because the
continue this
presentation is being to us right
December
now.
3rd.
It's important,
When
but
are
at the
you
same
gonna,
time,
when
it's
did
a
you plan to do
detail.
this?
Okay, so,
I don't know.
Actually, you have to, please.
I guess I don't know your technical words, so I don't want to make a mistake. If you're saying, would we be willing to make some sort of designation, permanent or semi-permanent, as much as we can do it, designation of where the boundary is in a couple of key locations with reflectors as a condition, then I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
What we need to do now is twofold, keeping in mind that we want to, we need to go back to the Winnicks, the property owners, to make sure that everything that we've talked to them before, that it's okay with them. We don't want to put up a reflector where they don't want it, but I certainly think that can be a condition. And so we won't do it if it can't go in there. We'll come back and tell you that. And then we're going to have Hamilton come in and do the clearing, and then Lawrence Lynch come in after we've notified you ahead of time and fix the road up in general and fix up this area too. It's less expensive to have the whole thing fixed. So obviously, we don't want the ground frozen when they're doing it, so we want to do it fairly efficiently. Not that we couldn't live through the winter without it being fixed, but that's what our goal is.
So,
Is that clear enough?
yeah, it does. So we don't have permission from the landowner.
We do. We've had permission
You
from
have
them.
permission from the landowner to
Do we have a
clear
letter
that?
to that?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to file, that's one of the things I asked for the,
Is there anything?
Jack, did you provide me a letter from the property owner?
You-
No.
What you asked us is who it was so that they could be notified about the meeting. That's my.
No, that's not what I said. I said to Jack that I need to know who the property owner is, because you need to determine whether or not you're doing work on private property.
Right. I
That's
started
what
my-
I said.
I started the conversation by that. I said,
Okay.
Bill and I think it was Mr. Doyle did do that research, did determine it, and they had that conversation with the neighbor. So now what you're saying is, in addition to that, you would like a letter from the neighbor acknowledging what it is
Jack,
they're proposing.
any work on somebody else's property, for the past 10 years that I've been in this position, you need their permission. That's why I asked you, determine who it is and get permission from them.
Okay,
come back with a plan
Okay.
on how to delineate that, we'll, so that Tom's satisfied,
Well, so that the board's
I think-
satisfied.
so the board's satisfied, we'll continue to December 3rd. And we're good. And you can be back here December 3rd anyway, Jack. Oh, maybe not.
I hope not. And the more I think about it, I think that flood zone is right. I think we corrected it, but I will verify that.
Verify that for me.
If I,
And then find out from Ms., I lost the plan, if it's okay to put reflectors or some sort of structure on that. And other than that, I mean, I think you're good, you just need to delineate it.
I understand.
yeah, and when I say reflectors, a steel stanchion, not one of the, and boy, I'd rip them out and throw them in somebody's yard if I see these out there. I do not want to have just a typical garden,
Reflector.
4 foot
I
tall
understand.
that you drive in.
I understand.
Something fairly substantial that would be, and it's not a big reflector. It's
We'll come up
yay
with an
big.
idea.
Yeah, it's something that's just galvanized, they're not huge. You have several of them in there just to denote that radius.
Got it.
And
I
that's
understand what you're saying.
The town of Falmouth and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have those reflectors. Is that something what you're thinking?
That's somewhat what I'm thinking.
Okay, fine.
Just something very basic, not expensive, that's durable, it's something that somebody taps into, they're gonna scratch their paint
Yep.
and realize they
Got it.
shouldn't be there.
Thank you.
People aren't gonna hang
Thank you
out.
for your time. And we'll
So
be
we
back
have-
here December 3rd.
So, we have,
And I think you're there.
Yep,
Yes,
thank you.
yes,
So,
Thank you.
we request a continuance to December 3rd?
Yes.
I would entertain a motion.
At the request of the applicant, I move to continue the hearing to December 3rd.
Second.
Okay,
Thank
Mary's
you for your
motion.
time.
Russell second. Any further discussion in the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, voting orders of conditions. First is 93 Falmouth Heights Road, Quayside Condors.
Mary, Russ, Tom, Mike, John.
Septic system.
Yes, the one where the engineer came in to,
This was the septic upgrade.
yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any special conditions you want to put on the septic upgrade?
I think they covered it with the caveat that they had on the engineer. My only concern was the tank that was closest to the harbor,
Yes.
and I was satisfied with the description of what the engineer there, what his backup plan was for it.
So do you want to put a condition that that backup plan be,
It's on the plan, it's right,
Okay.
it's right there. It's,
I didn't have any special conditions.
I had asked, relating to the stormwater report, the erosion control, the plan, two-page plan. They have item 8, if erosion occurs during construction, the contractor shall take steps to control and mitigate, and I had asked that either we get a special condition or that this be revised to require them to notify
yes,
Notify us of
if
severe
there's an
erosion.
event.
if there's an event, yes.
Yep. It just doesn't get addressed, they want to address it, but they also want to notify the board that it happened.
Yep.
This has happened, is
Notify
happening.
staff of erosion event, got it.
Yep.
Or breach of the erosion sedimentation control.
Right.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
God help me, because it's a tight place.
Yeah, boy, is it
That's-
ever. It's not gonna be fun.
No, it's gonna be a whole lot of.
It's not gonna be fun for the people who live there.
Yeah, it's, fortunately, I think it's seasonal, but still, it's,
Okay.
anyhow. Any further discussion on the board? Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
There again, it's Russell's motion, Mary's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 54 Sharon Ann Lane.
Yes. Yes, it is, same question. Sharon and Lynn was the, basically modifying that dock that's out there to bring it into compliance, along with, some restoration and mitigation plantings. The only special condition we talked is that since they want to plant some of their mitigation plantings on town property,
Right.
that we needed permission from the town in order to do that. To put some of their restoration plantings that had been cleared on town property, that they obtained permission from the town to plant those.
And did we receive that?
No, you wanted to condition that.
Condition it,
Yeah.
okay.
So they're gonna have to do that prior to work.
Correct.
Okay.
And when you say restoration plantings, are you talking about mitigation for the pagoda? Or the pergola,
Well, no,
rather?
mitigations for that pergola, if you want it to, if you're allowing it to remain,
Right.
because it's within 100 feet of the salt marsh. The restoration plantings were those hash mark areas, because that is all cleared, and that's
Oh, yeah,
actually-
yeah. Mhm.
So if you want the pergola and patio to be removed, they won't put the mitigation plantings in.
I'd rather see the mitigation plantings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it helps augment the other area that's getting
Yes, I
rebuilt.
would agree.
And the dock modifications are definitely in a plus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there any further discussion on the board? I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve the order as discussed.
Second. Mary's motion, Mike's second. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to discuss this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Moving along, Zero Ferry Road. This one,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the proposed dock at the end of Ferry Road.
I'm out.
you are, yeah, I don't think you're on there, John.
Mary, Russ, Tom, and Mike.
This one, I think I had a second.
Pumpkin seeds from my jack-o'-lantern.
Well, I think we're all familiar with what was being proposed. There was a pre-existing dock. It was damaged up in Sandy. Yep. That was not permitted or licensed.
Correct.
I think there was a threshold of over 50%,
Correct, on the emergency register Sandy.
right, in that. The stairs were removed, they were
Correct.
contributing to erosion along the bank after the storm.
Correct. The property owner requested removal.
Yep, and they had admitted, the testimony, my recollection is that originally the floats were stored down low, but then eventually made it to the upland.
Correct.
They were at one point on the lower end, and then moved up.
There was a platform, though, that had remained. The staff showed you a picture of that. That was
Correct.
on the back. It was in the marsh and in the water.
Yep, yes, I do recall that. And I believe the town's unaware of who actually owns the dock.
Yeah.
Who owned it.
Yeah, the town had no record.
But the new one's being proposed to be, it's not owned by the applicant. The new dock is, it's being proposed isn't owned owned by the applicant, correct?
Correct.
Or the property
The
is.
property. They, actually, the application filed at for a property at Zero Ferry Road. I've looked through the county registry of deed records, I've looked through the town property records. There's no such parcel. There are hundreds of parcels with a zero such and such address, Zero Woods Hole Road. They tend to be undeveloped parcels, like maybe that's the definition of them, but there is no Zero Ferry Road in either the town records or the county records. And I know that in hearings past, the board has had to satisfy itself as to the locus and the applicant had, you know.
Yeah.
I can remember a hearing in Falmouth, on Falmouth Harbor, on the Falmouth Heights roadside, where it was a residential property, but the project, you know, included some town land, and we had to get that resolved before we could deal with the project. So this situation just concerns me because I have no idea what we would be approving.
Well, and we just asked the other applicant to get permission from the person that owns the property.
Right. But at any rate, it's as,
Right, I'm sorry. As I'm reviewing notes and such, this dock was substantially larger than the other and had a different configuration floats as well. It was not.
Correct.
And their own admission that it's not in kind.
it's not
Correct.
it's not the same location.
It's in a different location. It's longer by, wait a minute.
47 feet.
Yeah, I want to say it's like 40, 50 feet. I don't think it's
We'll
quite
get
50.
you.
Hang on. He said it was a 120 scale. Yep, about 40, yeah, about 47 some odd feet. There's a an L configuration of floats at the end. That's 100 square feet of floats. So it's throughout the application, it was called a reconstruction, and it is not a reconstruction of what was there.
Please, Mike, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, my recollection is that they were more than willing to construct the dock at its original location, but it didn't meet our standards. That by expanding it, and we had testimony, which I found useful, which said that a requirement for depth responding was better for the environment. That the proposed structure was that they were going with a larger structure to meet our standard performance.
Correct.
And so that they were, in a way, more than happy to go with a small structure, in which was, was another thing. But from all our indications are in our daily deliberations, we do take into our performance standards, and they are trying to comply with that. So the notion that it is longer is to our benefit, if you can believe that.
I'm
But it
just
still
saying it
doesn't.
was called a reconstruction, and it's not a reconstruction of what was there. As far as performance standards go, there are two issues. One, it does not meet, when you have a floating dock, when you have a float dock, not a fixed pier, but a float dock, you need to maintain, your regulations state that you need to maintain 3 feet of water below the lowest portion of the floating dock. That isn't being met. Look at the plan. And
Well, you
another
guys
thing
can
is
keep going while I'm doodling.
area, you need 3 feet of water depth. Your regulations require 3 feet of water depth at the terminus of the docks. That is because that is typically where a boat is being tied up, correct? That's why you
That is-
require
yes,
3 feet.
Right, because this is
In-
also,
In this case, they are proposing to tie up, raft up 2 boats on the inside of that L. In Mr. McGrath's schematic, you were told in the original filing that they anticipated 4 boats there.
yes,
And in Mr. McGrath's schematic, that provided you with the hearing that 2 of those boats were going to be in the inside of the L and rafted together.
and what confused me on some of that is that they say it's a multiple homeowner, but it didn't meet the threshold on the common dock or the community dock.
Right, doesn't meet the standards for either. Well, community dock's out of the question, but common dock, it's not, it's not substituting for piers that otherwise would be there.
Correct.
Correct.
It's adding to the piers that would be there. And that's another problem. I mean, what regulation or what definition would we be approving this under? It's not a recognized form of allowable dock.
Right. Now,
I have to use an
even
architectural
still,
scale.
there's some sideline issues as well, I believe, still on
The
Monroe.
abutting attorneys,
Yeah.
the abutters attorneys did bring up a sideline issue. Their attorney because the sideline issue, they're saying that it's not, it's closer than 10 feet.
Yep. Yes,
Yeah.
I remember what he was.
Right.
Yep,
To the extended property line.
correct.
Right.
This is the extended property line here. That was brought up by the abutters. But I can measure that. I think they countered and said it might have met it, but I can look at that.
There was some slight discussion about the shellfish threshold as well, that they had no objection with the grant holder, and that was discussed, and I think you made a pretty valid point, just because he didn't have an issue with it.
It's
being a
irrelevant.
grant holder didn't mean that that performance standard was waived. That being the grant holder afforded him the rights for things, but it did not have any influence as far as the threshold being met from the board.
Right. The grant holder has no authority to be involved in this in any way. I mean, their opinion is of
And there was
interest,
also-
but
and
they can't.
There was a letter, it got a little confusing at one point, that there was a letter from the cultivator of the oysters there that was using, I think that, I don't know if he has the grant or if he was subletting, that he addressed that he was not submitting a letter in favor. He had a.
It was just
he
a letter
tried
of
to
no
be-
objection.
Yeah, he just wanted to be non-committal.
The thing about shellfish significance is the area is significant, is significant shellfish habitat, and it is the applicant's, and you presume that it is based on historic use, current use, shellfish density, and the applicant has to overcome that presumption. So the board needs to determine whether or not the applicant has overcome the presumption of significance.
But
They
that was the
did do
variance,
shellfish
right?
Yes.
That was the
assessment.
variance.
The variance.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
where's the hardship?
Yeah, I have a number of problems with their
Yeah.
variance argument, but, Yeah, they submitted for some kind of standard or precedent 5 previous projects,
Those
all
five,
of which were in Falmouth Harbor.
those 5 projects were all in Falmouth Harbor?
They all involved
Commercial,
reconstructions in the same footprint of a licensed structure.
Correct. Or
It was not a
dredging
comparable
project.
situation, and being in Falmouth Harbor, which is a marina
Commercial
zone,
harbor.
is not comparable either, so I don't,
it's apples and oranges.
yeah. Yeah, on the variance question also, they, you know, they're saying this is a public benefit because the new bridge conforms with our regular, you know, it's better environmentally than the old bridge. And, you know, I think the discussion we just had about the 3 feet calls that into question. It's not really conforming, but also they're comparing it to the old pier. But what we're really confronting here is nothing's there now, and I don't think it's an improvement over nothing's there now. And I also question whether they didn't contribute to the problems themselves by never licensing the dock, by waiting at least 1.5 years to file this after the dock was gone. You know, they haven't done themselves favors on this.
Can you figure it out? Or
Yeah,
is it
no,
3 or no?
they do not show the 3.
I have to use an architectural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pain in the neck, but it's okay.
Yeah. And that's just one, I mean, everybody always misses that one thing, and that's in your regs, and it's a floating dock, and that's just part of your regs.
There's one other thing I noticed, and I think this was in the very first round of submissions. There was a piece of paper from the shellfish warden, and I have it written down, and I would have to spend some time going through the notes to find it. But what I wrote down was that the shellfish warden approved only of the old footprint.
Harbor master.
Harbor master.
Oh, they thought it-
Harbor master.
Okay.
Okay, so the harbor master says revised comments as of April 3rd.
Well, I think it was the shellfish warden. I think the harbor master reserved comment, it had no comment, or had no opinion at the time. That's my recollection.
Okay.
I'll go in and look for Chuck's comments.
I may have.
Was it even, how far back would that be?
Greg's comments were navigational and issues, impacts on navigation would be similar to surrounding dock structures, mooring issues. At least one relocation will be required at the direction of the department and expense of the applicant. Comments none, and recommendation, if the dock is approved based on pre-existing conditions, I recommend it be no longer than the one originally in this location. Those are Greg's comments as of April 3rd.
The hardship portion of the variance is an extreme threshold that is difficult.
A hardship in your regulation.
It's meant to be
relates
difficult.
to
Yeah,
the-
and that's true. I can appreciate that. I mean, it's always something that I grapple with. I'm trying to find, there was very compelling testimony from all those that are affected by this. And it's not meant to cloud the issue, it's meant to satisfy what they've gone through, that their efforts are very real and that they've devoted time and resources to pursue this. And that's recognized. However, it's unfortunate that some of this effort wasn't sooner than later. I think that's where this really gets to the crux of the problem, is that there's just,
another problem I have is that I feel that the applicants just haven't been forthcoming about who is applying here. I don't know who should be considered owners and responsible for any new dock. And given that the waterfront abutters don't want the project, and given that we don't even know, this parcel they're talking about doesn't seem to exist, does this have unwanted consequences for the waterfront abutters? Is it going to be assumed, if any legal thing arises, that they're and they're responsible, or they're part of the group that's responsible? I don't know the answers to those things, but I find it worrisome.
So there was never any record of ownership in the original?
No.
No whatsoever. The town was unaware of this completely. I mean, nobody was being assessed for it.
We didn't know who owned it.
Didn't know who owned it, but the
I mean,
assessors, nobody knew
it
about
was
it.
on Thoreau's property, Thoreau and Monroe's property.
Were
It's at
they-
the end of Ferry Road.
Do you know if they were being assessed for it?
They were not.
So, okay.
So we don't know anything about that.
No.
And the stairs were not, that was the same situation? We didn't know about them, or they were never permitted, or?
We don't have any records of them.
No, okay.
To me, there seems to be two separate issues. And the first, if I break it, the dock presents a myriad of little problems. Some of the regulations create, and some that they create. But there are two separate issues from the stairs. Access down at their end of the street to the beach, getting that stairway approved doesn't seem to be a major issue.
That's up to you guys.
well, I'd love to be able to split this, but I think we run into the same,
I would advise
who's
against
the
that.
applicant?
Yeah, I think
We're-
if we can't, if we go, if we don't know that the parcel exists, who the applicants are, I think you've got almost all the same arguments against doing this, permitting the stairs that you do.
Because that is unclear. There
Well,
isn't,
where does it, they have, and here I'm stuck because I'm not a lawyer, but it is clear that they have access to the top of the bank down the road,
Via easements.
down the easement, right down the road, down what is that road to the top of that bit. That seems, I don't think anybody's questioning that. So now the question is.
well, actually, they are. That's a whole nother issue I don't even want to get into. There's an easement issue that we haven't even touched on that is above the coastal bank. That's a whole nother plethora of happiness that one neighbor says such and another says this, and we don't have to even worry
We're
about that.
not going into property rights.
Right, because we're going from the coastal bank,
Coastal, the top of the coastal.
top of the bank, we're going to, this is what we're doing here. This access in here, there's still arguments and misunderstandings up in here on what that is. How they get to this is not in our purview, but this being proposed as part of this project, if I felt that there was more clear, I'm tripping over that.
Well, let me come back to where I'm not clear. What I'm debating on this is, they did their best to build a dock that would, and show that being 80 feet out from the pier landward, if that should be 83 to make that a little deeper to meet the 4.3 foot depth. That's an issue that could be fixed. But they created this structure that we have objections to, and I found the structure, and some of them, were, but just leave it at that. But at the same time, they stated they'd be very happy, and the harbor master would be happy if they came back with a smaller structure. But what I don't want to do is put everybody through the same process again, to have them come through with another application for a smaller dock and say, yeah, we just don't like this is too big, make it smaller, and you'll come back and we'll give you a staircase and we'll give you a smaller dock. Have them come back and say no.
And that's what we're.
I don't want to make
False promises.
Yeah, I don't want to make anybody come back twice.
This is not a.
If the answer is no, the answer is no. If the answer is.
Mike, you have the same issues with the reconstruction of what was there. And sometimes the board does allow reconstructions for residential properties, correct? Under,
Right,
under
and we've done that.
a certain policy you guys have.
Right,
It's a policy. It's not a reg, it's not binding.
okay.
You guys can abandon that policy at any point. And you're still faced with the same issues that you're grappling with now. It's not a parcel. It's not, who owns it? And you can look at those. I mean, this is your resource area. The property rights issues aside, whether or not the applicants, whomever they are, all we have is Ms. Casile at all. You have a problem with who at all is.
Yeah, I mean.
Is it the 4 property owners that have been attending the hearing? Or is it everybody that has easement rights over CPIC? How is the dock going to be managed? I mean, these are things that could affect
Who
the
takes the
resource
floats in
areas.
they say they'll take them out in the event of a storm.
Right.
Who
They
takes
weren't
them out?
taken out before.
And it's in the velocity
Right.
too.
We were told that they left them at the base of the thing during Hurricane Sandy. Well, there's 2. 1, they carried them up before, and 2, they didn't carry them up, and they basically put them at the base of the dock during a severe tropical storm and left them there.
However.
And then carried them after the storm. So
But that's,
you have the same concerns with a reconstruction as you do with the larger structure.
And I'm gonna pipe in that we just denied a dock, that they had a prescribed methodology of removing it, and response time, and employees, and a very dedicated.
that was a velocity zone issue.
Yeah, and, yes, it was.
And here, this is coming in before the velocity zone was created. They had the right to come in, it is a fluke of timing, I guess. So,
I don't really think it was a fluke of timing. but-
There was also an.
well, whatever it
AC
is, they came in at a time that
No,
said you can produce it,
it's
and
not.
it is, and it's before us.
Yeah.
So,
On paper, it's not in the velocity zone. When Mother Nature comes roaring across the
But
back.
our regulations are written
Yeah,
around
on
what it
paper,
is.
it's not in the velocity zone.
Mike, the other dock also was in the ACEC.
Correct.
Just another obstacle.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not technically like Webner's dock.
No. But the,
Webster was at least a property owner.
and like, my point being that they had a management plan,
Correct.
that there was somebody
There you
accountable.
go.
That's how I'd like to address it. Then there's somebody's culpable for the maintenance, for everything.
Live there and do it.
Yeah,
There we go,
and
I agree with that.
My
There is a-
unfortunate trip up on this is that, as well-intended as this all is, and I appreciate the passion of the people and the history and everything else, but it's unfortunate that nobody stepped ahead of that or had the foresight to have something that was withstanding for the board to do. There's just, it's the at all. On one, that's one end of it, and then,
Right.
you know.
There's
and-
other things, I mean, 10,
Yeah.
16,
Yeah, there's the shellfish,
There
there's
are a
other,
few, you've got the shellfish significance, so it's a major hurdle.
we've discussed this ad nauseum, actually.
Almost as long as we discussed, well, a little bit longer than we discussed the collectors.
Yes,
Yes.
so we
That
have
was a
to,
10-minute discussion.
we need to,
As you always do, positive motion on the floor.
nice step back on that. There's so many things here.
so if there's enough discussion, we can set a motion and then continue to discuss this, that's fine too.
I'll make a positive motion for the sake of discussion
So you're going to move
to approve.
Approve this
to approve the
as
project
presented.
as presented.
Second.
Okay, that would be Russ's motion, Mary's second. Is there any other discussion on the board? We feel that we have enough findings.
I think we have all the findings we're
Well,
gonna have.
just once again, I am, there seems to be two issues, but I'm stuck with, I can't get by the first one, and that is ownership of where this thing is being constructed and who will physically own it. And that also allowing structures on somebody else's property seems to be very slippery slope. But I'm not willing to go. So I'm willing to stop right there, but if we can clarify for the applicant as to whether we're objecting, the applicant is willing to build something that was a reconstruct in the former footprint, which would make the harbor master happy, who would have some other
Correct.
problems. And if that's still viable, if the ownership issue gets resolved, I don't know how you do that, but if it does, then that's a second issue.
I'm gonna interrupt here just for a moment.
Sure.
What we have to vote on tonight is the project as presented. If we have anything that comes in front of this board, because whatever we decide tonight, and I don't want to speak before we vote, but what we're going to vote on is what's presented. We do not have the initiative or the prerogative to redesign something. These things, these items were discussed during the hearing, during the continuances, and that's already in the record, and people have recognized our ideas on that.
Okay.
They
Well,
did,
but-
they did put the other plan in, but the issues that the board is struggling with, you have with the reconstruction.
Well, if we can do it for the applicant, what I'm trying to do for the applicant is, this is not an easy process. It costs money, it costs time. And if the answer is, through whatever means, you're never going to put a dock at that location, then that's, I think we owe it to the applicant, if we can do that.
I want to satisfy your curiosities. If this applicant comes back in with the same information at all on this project, I, as one individual, will not approve it because it is unclear about the ownership.
Right.
That threshold alone has not satisfied me that I can't even begin, the process is started because I don't know, I'm given permission to something that doesn't exist. Somebody is not there. That's this commissioner's point of view. If they can clear all the other poo-poo to do cacao up, and they come back with an ownership and a project, then I think they have a cut and clear indicator of what the performance standards are that need to be met. This is pretty specific. But
This doesn't mean enough, I mean.
And I don't want to keep hammering this and hammering it. You know, I'd rather rip the Band-Aid and just, if there's no other information or any further discussion, is there?
I would just say, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that point, and I would add the additional point that to satisfy me, it would have to identify a parcel that they can prove exists. I mean, the parcel doesn't exist, let alone who owns the parcel. There's no record of that parcel, 0 Ferry Road.
Is there any further discussion? I'm going to take that as no. I'm going to call for the vote. This is a positive motion to approve this plan. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you for deliberation of this.
John abstained. Wait, yeah, I know, but it sometimes gets reported that way anyway.
We still have business? 13 Ocean Ave.
13 Ocean Ave was Teresa Sprague's project.
The hearing was closed, correct? The hearing was closed, so there
Yes.
couldn't be any public comment on it, right?
Right. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's fine, I didn't understand.
Okay.
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 13 Ocean Ave, Teresa Sprague's project. Oh, huh.
Jim must have it.
Everybody. It was the whole landscaping plan by Teresa. They had problems with sand coming through their existing plantings on top of the revetment. Teresa is going to be creating a dune system over there along the seawall, doing some really nice plantings throughout the property. We had she mitigated for the gravel area. Need to mitigate, we got sufficient plantings. We pretty much satisfied all of the staff's any of my questions during the hearing. So I don't have any special conditions other than, it was Teresa's plan, and the board has done this in the past. Teresa can be the sole entity to,
Right, because she's the one that's, she's the one that's
She needs to have the
presented
work
it.
done, she presented it, she has your comfort level. If the applicant chooses to go, or if the property owner chooses to go with a different contractor, that contractor has to come in with their own plan.
Is this the one with those removable panels that were
It
going
is the one with
next to
the
the?
removable panels, thank you
Yes.
for bringing that up. Do you want the removable panels or not?
Yeah, they need
To shield the next door's hot tub.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. It was kind of,
But did we have a condition on that, that there was like a?
They're supposed to,
You want a
it's a
condition
seasonal
that they
situation,
remove
and
them?
they should, same kind of thing that we were talking about with the Webner proposals. They need to, remove them before storms or at the end of the, at the end of the season.
and at the end of the season.
And I think they pretty much agreed to that, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it was there,
Right.
they just wanted to have it.
They'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything to that.
So if we go from
'Cause they'll say anything.
November,
Yeah, conditions to remove panels before storm and at end of season.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine,
okay.
So,
yeah.
what are you calling end of season, Jen?
When they-
Come out November 1st and go
Yeah,
back
sure. Well,
in
that-
May, I mean.
How late is the hot tub season real? I don't know.
I can go
It's
quite
better
a lot.
in the
I can go all
winter.
in long.
Around here, yeah, I guess the whole point is that it can
yeah,
carry
but it was, the
around.
panels
All
was
winter
his
long,
thing, not
trust
for
me.
the other guy.
Yeah, as long as they're there.
As long as
Yeah.
he's satisfied with that, if we put in November and he wants to come in and have it amended to adjust that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
right.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes, true.
November to April or something like that.
Good point.
If that's acceptable to the board, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
That's Russ's motion, Mary's second. And a call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 96 Old Main.
96 Old Main was the ANRAD.
Yes.
So basically, you are confirming the modified plan, you are confirming the bordering vegetated wetland boundaries, flags 12A to 19A, and flags 26A to 28A. I'll give you this little cheat sheet. You are also confirming isolated wetlands under your bylaw, and that will be IVW2, meaning isolated vegetated wetland. 2 to 1A, wait a minute, isolated vegetated wetland 2, because there's 2 isolated vegetated wetlands. So the second one is going to be 1A to 8A, and then isolated land subject to flooding, which that one's big enough to qualify under the state. You're going to be confirming, trust me, guys.
Yeah,
One through-
Confirming
1 through 20.
flags
1 through 20.
1 through 20A.
Yes.
Here
Who's
you
the
go.
Do we have a quorum on that?
I believe I missed this one.
I think Mario was here.
Mary,
Mary
Ross,
is
Tom, and John. You missed that stimulating conversation, Mike.
So could you repeat the quorum, please?
What? Mary, Ross, Tom, and John.
Mario was involved?
Mario was on that quorum, but he's not here
Okay.
tonight, so.
Oh, that's right.
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
we do
yeah,
have a
yeah,
quorum.
yeah, we do have a quorum.
You do have a
Okay.
quorum.
Good.
There's
Outstanding.
4 of you.
So after that description, is there anyone ready to make a motion?
Move to confirm the ANRAD.
Confirm the wetland boundaries.
Yeah.
Confirm the flags in the modified plan.
Yes, for the modified, as depicted on the modified plan.
Confirm the wetland boundaries.
That's Mary's motion. Do we
I'll
have,
second that.
Flag numbers depicted on the modified plan. Revised. These are revised. And then they have to go.
as soon as the,
There's going to be a lot of recycled paper tonight.
no, that would be Mary and then Russ.
You have a really long hearing
And-
next week, so let's just go right through these.
Yep, so we have, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
410
10
Seacoast
Seacoast
Shores
Shores.
is Mary, Russ, Tom, Mike, and John. It's everybody. Let me go find that. That was the house. It was the little house, and then we had them go back and look at the dune. And it's the little house that got stopped because they didn't have a building permit.
Right.
And they also, we were asked to provide this blow-up panel
Yes.
detail.
Yep, and they did that because a part of the house
Yep.
is in the velocity zone. They did the,
Something about the
I
dune.
don't
too,
remember
right?
this one
Yeah,
either.
There was a question about a dune, right? too?
Remember, they had the,
Mario went out.
it was like a little teeny house. You see the little box house, remember? If you
Okay,
go out
I know
there
where
and
I
had the
am.
new.
I know where I am, I know where I am, okay.
And they went out and did the dune work for me.
That's
They're not moving any closer. They provided the breakaway panels out from
Yeah.
underneath the deck, the covered porch and deck was what they needed.
Correct.
And we're good. I don't have any special conditions on this, other than, your normal special ones for houses and stuff. And mitigation plantings have to remain in there, full and mature for one.
Do we have enough,
Like, you look very confused
No,
all of
I
a
don't,
sudden.
I don't, listen,
Okay.
do we have enough information to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
That's Russell's motion, Mike's second. Call for the vote, all those in favor?
Second?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 58 Davis Road.
That's the vernal pool one where they came and hired, Dr. Richmond to do the dry pool method and evaluate it.
Yes.
It's not a vernal pool.
Based on, and in
There
his
we go.
opinion, it wasn't a vernal pool. They have, they have plantings already for them, so.
Yep.
We had to have the plantings reviewed though, because they transplanted a holly, didn't they?
Yes, and
That
they
was-
the applicants were a little enthusiastic and started putting stuff in, so we've asked them to stop until we finalize their planting plan.
Okay.
Because not all plants on your planting list are appropriate for all conditions that you find within the town of Falmouth.
I can believe that.
Yeah, because there's a
They
notation,
were just very enthusiastic.
there's a notation on the plan that describes more or less that, approved by,
Yeah. So we'll write that, we'll make a finding.
At least they were planting stuff, not taking stuff down. I mean,
So we'll make a finding on Dr. Richmond's assessment.
I think Commissioner Marion was pretty satisfied with it.
Yeah,
That's kind of who I,
entirely satisfied, I would say.
yeah, that's kind of who I'm gonna listen to on this.
Yeah.
And he appeared to,
I'm with you.
yes.
to Johnny.
If we have enough information to make a motion,
I make a move to accept the project as discussed.
Second.
that's Mike's motion, Mary's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Moving along, we have 35 Parker Road.
That's the condo complex with their little walkway down to the water,
Yes.
in the natural heritage habitat for the, oh my goodness, I can't.
The
even-
mussel.
I
Yes.
can't remember this, the tidewater mucket, I just like saying that.
Did that come in?
I haven't seen it yet,
Okay, so,
but.
we gonna wait for it or what?
No,
We had-
you've had in-water work in Flax Pond where, you would have possibly affected the tidewater mucket, that Natural Heritage has said no take. So I'm pretty confident that they will issue a no take. It's going
Yeah,
on a little bit of.
I am too, I was just wondering procedurally.
I don't believe we
It's a-
received it unless Mel put it in the file. She might have just filed it for me. I was happy to see that they did put in additional, plantings
Yep.
along there, and they did fix their drainage issue with that pipe that's coming right out that wall, right into the beach, so that was an improvement.
Yeah.
Form?
I can tell you guys.
I think I missed it.
Move to approve the order.
Yeah, that's too.
Sounds good to me. I'll second that.
Okay, that's Mary's motion, and, okay.
You're right, Mike, you did miss that one.
Because I went to see it, but I wasn't here for the hearing. So
Oh, okay.
There you go.
No, you have it, it's, Mary, Russ, Tom, and John.
Okay, we have a motion from Mary and a second from Russ. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Opposed? Any abstention?
I abstain.
Mike?
Yep.
Unanimous, the motion carries. Next is 189 Steph Drive. Well, I'm knocking out some-
This was a knockdown, right? Rebuild and
This is
reconstruct.
the
Yeah.
dam
Raise, yeah,
rebuild,
raise for the-
this
Yeah.
isn't a velocity zone, most of, they are proposing breakaway panels, which, staff does not particularly care for, but they're only enclosing a portion of it in their garage area. The rest of the project actually is on open column piling. And
Did we
so
get-
I'd say half the structure, half the proposed structure is on open column pilings, and half of it is enclosed just to have the breakaway panels in a garage space.
Did you get a DEP number on it?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
did
we're
we get
cool
a
there.
corrected plan?
From Mr. Martin?
Yes.
What correction did we need from
He
him?
was, his impervious area analysis was on there as referring to the A buffer, but he was really talking about the B buffer.
Oh, yeah.
And we're gonna need a dry well detail.
All right, so we need a drywall detail
We
and a
might-
revised plan.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, if it comes in on the,
yeah,
already on the plan, I don't think we usually
but if not,
ask.
Yeah, I'll have them submit a revised plan with a drywall detail,
Why
one that's sized
and
appropriately.
if we have enough information, I'd take a motion.
Move to approve the order as discussed.
Second.
Mary, Russ, Tom, Mike, and John, Falmouth.
So that was a motion by Mary
We're moving way too fast.
and a second by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
That's Mary's motion, John's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay. I'm having so much fun.
Abstentions?